The Chicago Bears add a new running back into the running back room after a couple of injuries are dealt to the room. We'll talk about who they added and why this is something to keep an eye on. All that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us. No, I'm getting to this news a little bit late, but was out doing some stuff for mom's anniversary, right? Mom and pop's anniversary. So was a little bit busy today, but still wanted to get this news to you guys. If you haven't seen it, give you a little bit of breakdown. Of course, my thoughts on it. Chicago Bears go out and sign Demetric Felton, to basically a camp deal here, which is a signing in response to the fact that the Bears get a couple of injuries in Saturday's practice. Travis Homer and Ian Wheeler both going down with some things. Now, didn't seem like there was any major concern around it, but maybe something to keep an eye on with the fact that you're bringing in another camp body, but you still want to have enough guys in there. Of course, for drills, you want to have guys in there that can give some push. Demetric Felton kind of does what Travis Homer and Ian Wheeler do, especially more Travis Homer. He's been with the Browns for a couple of seasons, 26 years old. He's also been, I think last year, he finished out last season on the Bengals practice squad, 5'9", 190-pound running back. Listen, 26 years old. I'm not expecting a ton from him, but it's an opportunity for you to come in here and try and make a name for yourself, very similar to what we've seen Ian Wheeler do. Ian Wheeler has caught the eye of many people around the Chicago Bears, and you hope that this doesn't turn into something lengthy for him, because I think that, right, even if you listen to yesterday's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast, you hear Jeff Joniak talk about him as one of his sleepers. I've talked about him consistently as my sleeper players. I just think that there's a lot that Ian Wheeler brings. So hopefully he's not down for an extended period of time and we can see him get back in that lineup. But going out and getting a guy like Demetric Felton, to me, it feels probably like you don't expect now Ian Wheeler or Travis Homer to be playing in that Hall of Fame game where you thought that they were going to get a ton of work. And so now you want to make sure that you have a couple of those backup bodies who have an opportunity to go out and showcase something. Now, in 2 seasons as the main back, Demetric Felton has been very interesting because he hasn't gotten any opportunity as far as NFL, but as far as preseason, he's somebody whose name has come up over the last couple of seasons multiple times. Don't be surprised, especially with Hard Knocks here, if you see kind of a focus on him if given the opportunity. And yeah, it's going to be against the 3s. It's going to be against the 4s, right? It's not going to be against the best of the best, but you're not going to see a ton of DeAndre Swift. I would say you're going to get a Roshan Johnson game. You're going to get some Khalil Herbert. And now Demetric Felton will probably end up being your backup running back in that situation. If this does end up being something that holds them out of the game, I think that there's at least a belief probably around one of these guys that he's not going to be out there, not going to get a ton of run. And so you want to have a body out there to do those things as well. On top of that, Felton is a guy who on special teams can make an impact as well. He knows his role, right? J-Mac has talked about this a ton, and I've talked about it with you guys as well, where if you're one of those guys who's the end of the roster guy just trying to make a team, you got to be willing to do everything. And that is something that Felton is willing to do. He is fine with being on both sides on special teams. He's fine being the running back. He's fine being the backup running back. That's what, to me, intrigues me about him. And I think that that's the part that is, if you're going to go out and find a guy, right, maybe you want to find a gem to have on the practice squad or whatever it is, or just have another guy that's in this system, knows what he wants to run in this system and knows how to run it well. Right, this is kind of the Darrington Evans move possibly that maybe can impact you later on in the season if you should deal with some injury to the running back room. We got a couple of backs who have struggled to stay healthy in their time here or I should say in their time in the NFL, Khalil Herbert here with the Chicago Bears. And then, of course, DeAndre Swift outside of last season, his time with Detroit was filled with some injury issues. So could that be a little bit of a concern for the Chicago Bears? I don't know if it will be in the long run. But it's good to have guys that you're bringing in that are understanding your system, know what you want to run, know how you want to run it, know what the calls are, and are comfortable with the group of guys that you have. Like I said, very similar to what we saw last year from Darrington Evans, where, he had been a part of the team before, and randomly you just bring him back and you're like, hey, you know what I mean? Like we're down a couple of backs. Can you go this week? He's able to go. He ends up getting a couple of touchdowns. I think he scored one in that Washington game. I think he also ends up getting a couple later on throughout the season, right? Like a guy, and then he ends up signing with Miami for the rest of the year. So always value these moments, especially if you're a guy like Demetric Felton, and feel like there's something there that this opportunity can offer you long term. Hopefully, we see Felton be able to take advantage of that. Let me know your thoughts on the signing in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Do you think that this is going to be a good signing? Do you think he's somebody that ends up being a part of maybe the future plans of the Chicago Bears? Because with how loaded this room is, I doubt you're going to see him be a part of the short-term plans of the Bears right now. And I mean, we've talked about this a ton, right? But we've kind of talked about it in the aspect of, hey, what do we do if such and such, if the Bears move on from Khalil Herbert, or if the Bears, move on from Homer, or move on from Swift, whatever it is, right? Or not moving on from Swift, but move on from Homer or Herbert. And to me, right, like the conversation that we haven't had is just look at how this room is made up. And we talked with Kari Blasingame on the last episode of the Chicago Bears podcast, and he had kind of talked about the mindset that this room is going to have, basically saying, because I asked him, I was like, is it tougher to get yourself going if you're not getting that amount of carries? We saw that last season, right? Deontay Foreman, Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert, they were kind of splitting it like 9-9-6, but they were still saying we're carrying the ball, but you weren't seeing guys be able to get into that lather. And what Kari Blasingame had to say about that was, you kind of just have to have that mindset that when it's my time to be ready, I'm going to be ready. And I don't know if we saw that a ton last season. It is something that, if you can have guys with that mindset, and Blasingame talked about, with this current room that they have, that you should be able to have guys with that kind of mindset, that you can go out there and really get a lot done and stay fresh. And I just don't know if we really saw that last year with Evans, who not Evans, with Deontay Foreman, who to me was more of a, let me get the ball, let me work, let me be a downhill guy, let me knock these guys out of the way. Khalil Herbert's like, okay, let me be the speed back, I'm the number one, let me just focus on this. But I don't know if everybody was in that mindset of like, if you eat, I eat, we all eat. Because we never saw those guys really be able to get themselves going when they were all getting the football. We saw them get themselves going when it was a very specific, it's your ball, you're running it 15 times, you go out there and get the job done the best that you can. And I wonder if we'll see a change in that mindset this season, where maybe you can hold on to all three of the main running backs coming in. I'm talking about Khalil Herbert, DeAndre Swift, and Roschon Johnson, and just have the understanding of like, listen, there's going to be this three-headed back system. Maybe we use Roschon more goal line. Maybe Khalil Herbert is used a kind of opposite of a DeAndre Swift, because if you have both of them in the backfield, you got to think about this. If you have both running backs in the backfield, some 21 personnel, you have an opportunity to literally be able to go out there and have 5 pass catching guys, 2 of them coming out of your backfield, 3 of them as far as receivers on the field, right? Like, you have an opportunity to have a ton of pass catchers on the field. Khalil Herbert caught the football at a 65% clip last season, which was down for him a little bit. DeAndre Swift, we know he's a top percentage catch guy as far as the NFL goes. Roschon Johnson was an 85% guy when targeted last season. So I think it all comes down to, how are you going to be able to utilize all 3 guys in the passing game? And are you going to be okay with splitting the reps between those 3 and just have that mindset of, when my time comes, I need to be able to shine? I'll be very intrigued to see how that works for the Chicago Bears, and if they're able to actually implement that in with the running backs that they have. We also know Shane Waldron runs more of a 2-back system than a 3-back system, but we'll see if maybe he can incorporate some of that in, and you do end up keeping all 3 running backs on the roster. But I do want to know how you guys feel about everything that we talked about in this video. Do you think that the Bears can get a 3-back system to work this season, or do you feel like one of those backs needs to be moved? And what are your thoughts on the signing of Demetric Felton? I'm gonna get up out of here, man. Got to go spend time with the fam, but hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago Bears.